Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, the 13th of June, and we are live to you from our homes to your homes for the fourth Diverse Ed event. We were due to be in Liverpool this morning, but obviously we're not in Liverpool. We are instead all over the country. But what it has meant is that we have got 600 people booked to join us, and lots more people joining us via social media. We've got people from Jamaica who've not gone to bed because they want to listen to us. We've got people who are staying up in the East. It's absolutely fantastic that you've all joined us. The beauty of technology is we are also going to be recorded forevermore to be on YouTube. And the DfE is emailed this morning and they are going to be watching this video as part of their learning journey. So it's fantastic to have you all here. Just to set the scene, diversity is the word of the moment, but we need the word diversity to be meaningful and not meaningless. We need diversity to be symbolic. We need the context of what is going on in the world right now to be seen and to be listened to. It is undeniable in the last few months with Black Lives Matters, with the transphobic hate on Twitter, and with the rise in domestic abuse that protected characteristics are more important now than ever before. We need to spotlight what is going on in the world. So much for British values, we need to be thinking about global human values. So much for tolerance, we need to think acceptance. So this event is about celebration, not toleration. This event is about listening, learning, and leaning in. It is about showing up, standing up, and speaking out. It is about awareness, agency, and action. It is fantastic you are here. As you listen and learn and reflect today, please do so through three lenses. Lens one, yourself, the individual. What can you do? Lens two, our schools, our staff and our students and our communities. What can we collectively do? Lens three, society. How can we make our world a better place for all of us to coexist? I'm really excited about our brilliant lineup. It is hard. They all had an hour and they've condensed it down to 5 minutes. So it is going to be headlines of key messages, but I'm hoping the conversation will carry on social media. People will blog and people will take this information back to their schools. Just read tweets. There's going to be a lot of traffic. Please, can you help us streamline the traffic? If it is a general comment or reflection, please tag in Diverse Ed 2020. If it's a question for one of the panelists, because at the end of each input, there'll be some questions, please direct those questions to Ethical Leader and they will come through to us in the studio. So without further ado, session one is about the landscape, what is going on nationally when it comes to diversity and inclusion. We have four fantastic speakers sat before me, and hopefully you can see them on your screen. We have Allana Gay, the co-founder of BAME Ed and one of the only women of colour who is a head teacher in a private school in the country. We have Alison Kriel, one of the first BAME CEOs of a group of schools, and now a consultant and a strategy lead for Women Ed. We have Daniel Gray, one of the co-founders of LGBT Ed, and we have Elizabeth Wright, a Paralympian and a disability consultant and activist. What an amazing way to kick off the day. I'm going to mute myself now and hand over to Allana to put rockets up backsides. Over to you, Allana.
Thank you very much, Hannah, and welcome to everybody who's here this morning, and thank you for joining us all. So let me tell you a bit about the BAME Ed journey and where we are and what we've been doing so far. I mean, we're very popular at the moment. We're on trend. And I'm going to say on trend because when it comes to dealing with ethnic minority issues, it seems like we have to be on trend. So at this point, there's a lot happening around us that all has to do with ethnic minorities and how we are being developed, how racism works in our society, whether or not we should topple statues. All of this is meaningless if nothing further comes from it. So it's not about what is happening now, it's what will happen and what change will you make happen when all of this is over. And that's what BAME Ed is about. So at BAME Ed, we look at what would it look like when we are genuinely all equal, when I don't have to say things like Black Lives Matter to highlight the issues of Black lives. Later on, Asian Lives Matter to highlight those issues that Asian people are facing, or even Gypsy Roma Traveller Lives Matter, because this is also their History Month. When those things don't need to happen anymore, that we bring focus into every single group, then we will know that we have achieved what BayMed has set out to achieve. And it's not just about what BayMed is here to do. It's not just about what we do right now. It's about what are the steps that we need organizations to take. So we spend a lot of time collaborating with organizations, because when you come under a general banner of BAME, there are so many different issues to deconstruct that it's not just one, so it's just not just unitary. So we might be one unit, but we definitely are not a singularity. There are many different issues that we need to tackle. So some of the simple things that we've undertaken in this current time. We will know that we are no longer needed when we don't have to put out BAME-specific COVID-19 risk assessments, and advise schools that as much as you're going to do a general risk assessment for your school, you also need to look specifically at the fact that if you're from the BAME community, you are more likely to contract and to die from this disease, and looking at the social and medical reasons why that is more likely to happen. We won't have to battle on things like policies. So you will say to your school, if you have a hair policy that is going to discriminate against Black African hair to a different extent, that will be something that will be removed from our education system. Even in looking at small things like behavior, it's not enough to say, well, there are some groups, gypsy travelers, they don't really achieve, Black children, then Black Caribbean boys not really doing well. Interrogate your data to examine why and take the steps to make that change happen. We're not looking just for the quick fix. We're looking for the long-term change that makes education in the UK something for everyone. And that comes not from this BAME community, but it has to come by bringing our white colleagues along. So to my white colleagues, I'm going to say to you, the best thing you can do for us and the best thing you can do to make education into that equitable system that we all want it to be, would be not just about what am I sensing, but think about what am I doing? This is your call to action. This is not your time to come here and listen and say, oh yeah, solidarity, I really understand. Black Lives Matter is a slogan. What we're looking for is an action. And all of my colleagues here, we're looking for the actions that will come, the change that needs to come. And unless all of my white colleagues listening right now are here and present and ready to commit to being a part of that action, to accepting that some of the power that you have, some of the institutions, some of the structures that we have in place need to change. Simple changes. Change the history curriculum, change the books you're reading inside of your classroom, add more diverse literature into your classroom, discuss what is happening out in society with the students that are in your area. Nudge someone and tell them, actually, there's this training program, not a deficit model training program, but here's a master's, why don't you go sign up for that? Here's your NPQs, why don't you go sign up for that? Here is an opportunity for you to advance your career. Why don't you take that chance? I will coach you through. So it's not just about what's happening in the moment, it's about what we're going to do in the long-term future. And listen to those experiences of racism. I always say, Hannah, that when I think about people saying, oh, you're playing the race card, every time I see that, I feel pain inside, because the amount of thought that goes into me or anyone considering the experience, the amount of reflection that they have on that experience that they're having before they say, actually, that was racist. And then just to be told, oh, you're playing the race card. Dismissed. And there's nothing worse in our schools where teachers have experienced racism from their students, from their colleagues in the staff room, to have the senior leadership turn around and say, you're just playing the race card. They didn't mean it like that. You need to grow thicker skin. So when we think of education in the UK and what we want to have next, we need to think about, well, who are the students that we're preparing for the future, and what's the future we're preparing them for? Join BayMed, have a look on our website. We feature speakers. So one of the pledges you can make today is do not participate in all white panels, whether the diversity comes from having white women on the panel alongside white men, but do not participate in any event that does not reflect the diversity. Shockingly enough, there are experts in every field that have ethnic minorities in them. Every field you can find an ethnic minority speaker. Every field you can find an LGBTQ speaker. Every field you can find someone with who would declare themselves as having a disability, who can be an expert in that field. Do not limit your experiences, and do not allow others to limit your experiences to thinking that it's a niche market where we can't find someone. BayMed has a network of speakers that you can have a look at. And if you are ethnic minority, please do put your name forward. Just look at what you can do in order to support your colleagues. Sign up to be a mentor. There's a woman leading in education. They could do with more Bay mentors. BayMed also runs a mentoring system. Why don't you sign up to be a coach? Sign up to train others. Diversity and inclusion, especially when it comes to racism and ethnicity, cannot be a fad. And I cannot sit here and say that the only time we are a fad is when one of us experiences severe trauma. We cannot have an education system and a society where it's only by watching one man die over the course of 8.5 minutes that we decide, oh, that was bad, maybe we should say something. It's about in those quiet moments when you're sitting around the dinner table and someone in your guest party says something racist, you say something then. And if you can do that, then please come join us in BayMed, because this is all going to be a part of the journey that we take together to make change happen in our society. Hannah?
Allana, thank you so much. So powerful. So many compelling messages there. And I've written down loads of things for myself to reflect on as well. I think the kind of, it's an action, not a slogan. It's really, really important. And I'm seeing a lot on Twitter about being anti-racist and not non-racist. We need action, not passivity. So thank you so much. And questions to Allana, please, put them into the thread. I made a mistake. The question should be on Periscope, please, not on Twitter, and they'll come directly into the studio. Before I hand over to Liz Wright, who's going to talk about disability awareness, I need to do an apology. We would ideally have had a BSL translator for this. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it work with the tech. But when we do the recording on YouTube, we'll make sure it's subtitled to make sure that the recording is inclusive for everybody. So I'm going to hand over to Liz now to talk about what we can do to raise awareness for disability.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. Thank you so much for asking me to be involved again, Hannah. I really, really loved attending Diverse Ed last year, or earlier this year, I should say. And I'm really excited today to contribute, hopefully in a really positive way, and inspire people to think about how they can raise disability awareness in their schools. When Hannah asked me to still be involved and do 5 minutes, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to talk about? And she actually asked me to talk about some grassroots action that I've taken recently in the Shape of a Change.org campaign. So a few weeks ago, I happened to wake up one morning, as you do, as I think most of us do, leapt onto Twitter to check out what everyone was doing that morning. And I noticed something that was really made me angry, really upset. And I could see that for the disability community on Twitter, that they were really upset about this. And it was something that was happening on TikTok, which I'm sure hopefully most of us are aware of this social media platform. I know that a lot of teens and young people definitely use TikTok a lot to kind of make videos where they dance to music and stuff like that. And what I was seeing on Twitter was that there was an autism challenge that had been going on for, I think, a few days or about a week or something like that. And what was happening with that was that people were making videos where they were mocking people with autism, not just autism, but also physical disabilities. And the videos that I saw were really upsetting. I could only watch them once. It was really hurtful. And in that moment, with that feeling of anger, I just thought, I have to do something about this. And I think that's what drives a lot of us. It's when we see something that is just really painful to watch. You know, I mean, Allana kind of touched on it a bit in her bit where she spoke about why should it just be that one moment in time that makes us take action. But In this case, for me, as a disability activist, this was almost like the final straw. So I started this change.org petition, which was about tackling the discrimination and bullying that was appearing on TikTok, and the fact that they were taking days to literally take these videos down, which wasn't right. It's a petition that has gained over 1,000 signatures and been shared over 500 times, and it's still gaining signatures, even though there has, to some degree, been some resolve to the situation. In other words, they have taken down the autism challenge videos, which is absolutely brilliant. But kind of looking at it, I think what doing this petition really did for me was to consider the issues from a broader perspective and look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that TikTok as a social media platform does have policies that are there to protect protected characteristics, but they're not enacting them potentially in the most efficient and best way to actually prevent these kind of videos being taken off. And it can be the same across other social media platforms as well. The other thing that came to light when I was actually working on this petition was the fact that TikTok were also censoring certain people who were on TikTok. So definitely around disability, there has been censoring of videos by disabled people. So alongside with the algorithms and stuff like that, it's called shadow banning. They actually suppress those videos from being seen by other people. And the reading that I've done about that is because if it's something isn't attractive or seen or considered attractive or considered aspirational, then it's something that they don't want to promote on their platform, which is essentially a form of censoring the content that is out there. And it wasn't just disabled people that they were kind of focusing this on, but also people that moderators deemed ugly, which is a really awful thing to say, but that is what I've been reading, as well as people who are overweight. So it's kind of this strange censoring that they have on this platform that I think in terms of bigger picture really speaks to that kind of discrimination and bullying that is not being fully addressed on that as a platform. But to kind of bring this further onto how schools can kind of help with this kind of situation is to very rightly come back to that point that I made earlier, that it's a lot of teens that actually use TikTok. And I see it as a two-pronged approach that has to be done to deal with this discrimination and bullying against disabled people. It's about looking at the social media platforms and the policies that they have and how they actually enact them and enforce them on their platforms. But it is also raising disability awareness in schools so that these teens or young people that are actually creating these videos understand that it is wrong and therefore might not create the videos in the first place. So for me, I think it's definitely something that I would ask all of you guys to think about is actually how much disability awareness do you have going on in your school? And this isn't about looking at and focusing on SEND students. I'm actually talking about your non-disabled students, how you are actually teaching them about disability and disability awareness, and introducing them to actually the lived experience and the reality of what disability is, as opposed to paying into those stereotypes that are so entrenched throughout society around disability. So I think, again, coming back to Allana made a point about it's looking at your curriculum. And I think it's a similar line with disability as well. You have to really look at how your curriculum is structured and how much you are actually including perhaps disability stories in your curriculum or role models, or how you're actually raising that discussion. Are you bringing in people with different disabilities to give talks to your students so that they're actually meeting people? Because I know for a lot of non-disabled people, I ask them, do you know anyone with a disability? And a lot of people will go, oh, no, I don't, or, oh, my uncle has a prosthetic leg, or something like that. It's very kind of almost like a one-dimensional understanding of what disability is, but disability is a lot deeper. We have so many types of disabilities, and I think people have to understand that. So I realize I've probably got about 30 seconds left, so I'll quickly wrap up, Hannah. What I will say is, in terms of pledging today, what I would love for you to think about is disability awareness. So what I would ask is that you consider pledging to raise awareness of disability in your school to tackle bullying and discrimination, not just in your school of disabled students, but the wider perspective and experience of the disability community. And to help you with that, I'm actually developing some disability awareness packs. And I've promised Hannah that I would allow everyone who's kind of attended this, which I know is kind of blown out a lot, but you'll be able to access it for free. So I think the easiest way for me to do that would be to pop, once I've completed it and it's all polished, to pop it up on my website so you can download it and have access to that. So thank you, Hannah.
Brilliant, thank you, Liz. Well, I love the segue from Allana's piece about the call to action and being active to you modelling how to actually take action yourself, because I think people want to help but don't always know how to help. And I think what you've modelled there is you saw something you didn't like and you've talked us through what you actually did to challenge it. Similarly, this morning I saw another all-white panel for a global event, and I've helped someone in Canada write a response to challenge that, Allana. So I think it's that, what can we all individually do to contribute? And I think just read that awareness piece around disability, it's the hidden disabilities as well, isn't it? It's not everything's visible, and you don't actually know who in your staff team has got a disability. I find it staggering how much data we have on our children and how little data we have about our staff. I'm going to hand over next then to Dan, who's going to talk us about LGBT Ed and what they've been up to.
Morning, everyone. Hello. A lot of what I wanted to say has been said much better than I ever would. So thank you for that, ladies, which means mine's going to be very short. Can I start by saying thanks for inviting us again today, Hannah. LGBT Ed would not exist without the support of you and also all of our diverse Ed colleagues. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here. I also want to say that we stand with our trans community, especially in light of the recent high-profile transphobia, and of course, with our BAME community. This week was also the 4th anniversary of the terrorist attack on the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. So our thoughts are with the families of the victims. I hope that these events make us more passionate than ever about delivering a fair and more equal society. And hopefully these past few weeks might be a turning point towards change. I think we have to continue to be optimistic where we can. Just to give you a little bit about LGBT Ed, how we started and where we're at. We're a network to empower LGBT plus teachers to be visible and authentic in their workplaces for the benefit of LGBT young people. We also need allies, though, and these are people who aren't LGBT, to lead on this in their schools. So we're looking for as many people to come forward as possible to get involved, and you don't have to be LGBT to work here, but it helps. We are delighted to formally launch today. We have some quite exciting news for you, to formally launch our new partnership with the Centre for LGBTQ+ Inclusion in Education at Leeds Beckett University. And we'll be working more closely together from now on a wide programme of activities and CPD. We'll have CPD for schools to develop LGBT+ inclusion going live as distance learning from September. And there will be a discount. Can you put a little flashing something on the screen? There'll be a discount if they mention LGBT Ed when they apply. That training includes, sorry, my cat has just wandered in. This training will include LGBT governor training, training for LGBT leads in school, trans inclusion in PE, which is completely unique as a course, and also we're running a kite mark and an award. And I will put details in the chat on the thread on Twitter for all the email addresses and everything for you to get in touch with. Any questions during today about this partnership can go to Rachel Bostwick from the Centre, again, whose email I will put in the chat. And also Hannah Jepson, who is the other co-founder and director of LGBT Ed. She's going to be here all day. She's a lead coach on the award that we're running. And I'll put all email addresses, as I said, later on in the thread. A couple of other things just to go through.
I think Dan's just left the studio rather than unmuted himself. Easily done. Is he back? Here he is. Okay, we are live and we are going to make mistakes. Dan, that was classic. I'm glad it was you and not me. You picked it up smoothly. Back over to you.
Hello, yes, we are live. These things do happen. Welcome back. A couple of things. We had our soft launch, if you remember, at the very first Diverse Ed conference. And then we had a formal launch on the 2nd of June 2018. And since then, we have done some fantastic things. We've led 2 cohorts of our Proud Leadership course. 75% of the cohort have since achieved some kind of promotion in their schools, which is fantastic. We are running a pilot of the LGBT Ed one-day leadership event on Saturday the 27th of June. The aim was for that to be in the north of England. Of course, it's now going to be online, but we are following requests now, able to branch out a bit more across the country. There's details about that post on our Twitter page. Each of these comes with 2 hours of free coaching and mentoring. Plus, we have every Thursday evening at 7:30, run by Nick Bentley, who's our London ambassador. He runs the LGBT Ed Chat, the hashtag LGBT Ed Chat, Thursday at 7:30. What we need now, though, from everybody is, can you help us be the best we can be? We're still looking for volunteers from across the spectrum, including BAME and those with disabilities, to join our steering group. We want to recruit a total of about 6 people, and we want to make sure that we're making the best decisions we can make about how we move forward in order to be as inclusive as possible. So please email hannah.jepson@lgbted.uk. But again, I will put that in the Twitter feed and the chat, etc. hannah.jepson@lgbted.uk. Plus, I'm editing the very first LGBT Ed book called Big Gay Adventures in Education. And it's coming out very soon, containing a collection of positive stories of out teachers and some pupils of out teachers who have contributed to the book as well. If you want to get involved, please get in touch via the website, lgbted.uk. We have a mailing list. You can email me. Again, I will put all the details in the thread. And, well, we especially want to hear from you if you've got money. That'd be great. Thank you very much for listening. And I think we should pledge today to be the role models we needed when we were at school. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dan. And very smoothly done. You're getting lots of compliments on Twitter about modelling how humanistic and authentic we are as leaders. They actually thought it was pre-recorded. You were all being so polished. So well done for taking that in your stride. I think what I'm most excited to hear is that from work started 5 years ago in the grassroots space, the system is listening. And we've got people leaning in as partners who are working with us. And I think it's great what happens in the grassroots space. When we start working with partners in the system, that is when we're going to really accelerate the progress and the change we want to see in our schools. So fantastic partnerships there. And I think a big shout out to Leeds Beckett. They do support a lot of the grassroots community. So thank you very much, Leeds Beckett. Our final speaker for this morning's piece about landscaping is Alison Kriel. And if you didn't see the event that she co-organised midweek, Campus Support for Women, I'll share that link with you all as well. Over to you, Alison. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so rubbish at tech. But anyway, it's really nice to be collaborating with you again, Hannah. I've been part of Diverse Ed for a few years now, and I make no secret of the fact that it's one of my favourite things that I like to be a part of. So I'm going to talk about 3 things really, really quickly. And the first reason why Hannah asked me to come and talk today is to talk about the work that we're doing at Women Ed. So we've got 4, we've always had 3 campaigns, which was increased representation of women in leadership roles, reducing the gender pay gap, and also advocating for flexible working practices. And this is what this has been the main body of the work that Women Ed have been doing since they started 5 years ago. I'm the newbie in the strategic lead team, and you can imagine it's me. So I have been pushing for the fact that Women Ed is not representative of all women in the UK. And now we're moving globally. It's going to be an even bigger thing. So this is going to be at the heart of what I intend to do. And so I'm very pleased to say that at our 5th birthday party at the beginning of May, we launched the 4th campaign, which is increased representation of BAME women in leadership. I have to say at the moment, It is work that the strategic work is happening. It's not happened yet. I'm not saying we're doing it, but this is the heart of what we're going to be focusing on this year. It is going to be about inclusion overall. So next year, the focus might be a different group, but we will continue to work on increased representation of BAME women in leadership. It's a critical thing to be doing because of the head teachers in this country, 97% are white. That means there are only 3% of all head teachers are BAME, and it's less than 1% who are women. Now that is not okay. That is not okay. And Women Ed can spearhead this work, but it's actually up to every single school governing body to look at what they are doing around senior leadership, especially around inclusion of BAME women. I'm tired already. It's only been 2 weeks, and I'm tired already of hearing Black women need to step up. Black women are stepping up. You guys are not listening to us, you're not seeing us, and you need to start doing something about that. So that is what we were going to be doing. I have to say that when you go beyond headship, it gets even worse. I am a little bit tired of seeing a model where we have executive heads who are white and we have head of schools who are BAME women. That tells me that you are quite happy for BAME women to do all the work, but not get paid properly, not get the job description that they are entitled to have. So please sort it out. When you look beyond that, as a CEO, I can remember going to 2 events, one in Islington where I walked out in the end because I was tired of people asking me who I was representing. And then I went to a women-only CEO event organised by the DFE. Nothing was said. It was great. The inclusion team and everyone else was there. Nothing was said about the fact that I was the only Black woman in the room. And at the end, I went up to a group of regional leads and asked them why they didn't say anything about BAME women leaders at a CEO level. And what I was told was we didn't even realize we had a BAME CEO. That must never, ever happen again. And I know we're back in that position already. And I would, if the DFE are watching, it's up to you to change that. So that's the main thing. The work from Women Ed the work that Women Ed have been doing on their 4th campaign kind of became a bigger issue in the around the time we were seeing the huge and horrendous crimes which are going on in the US. Please don't sit back and think it's all US and it's not happening over here. It's happening here. It is completely happening here all of the time. We walk it every single day. I got distressed because nobody was speaking out at all. And so I ended up in this wonderful collaborative group with Hannah, with Penny from BAME Ed, with Angie from Nourished School, and with Amy from LGBT Ed. And we put together in less than a week a webinar which was specifically a collaborative support group for women. It kept selling out. It was meant to be 50 people, and then it was 100 people, and then it was 500 people, and it went on and on. So we know that there is a need, and from that, I've now set up a talking circle. I know that there are so many people who are contacting me. I haven't got time to be able to support everyone, but there is wisdom within our group. So yesterday, I put out a tweet saying that I've set up the talking circle, which is for men and for women who are BAME to come together to support each other because we've got wisdom within the group. So I'm going to duck out now because I'm conscious of the fact, am I over time? I've got 1 minute. So can I just end up by saying to you that the work of anti-racism, the work of becoming a better human to other humans, it is not something that, it's not a value that I want to see laminated on anyone's badges, please. It's not something, I don't want to hear about anti-racism weeks in any school or anti-racism months. This is something that you walk and you talk every single day. Anti-racism is about being anti-racist. It is not a tokenistic gesture. So if I see any school saying that anti-racism is one of their values and I see it laminated, I know you're not anti-racist. If I hear of any school saying we're having an anti-racist week, I know that you are not anti-racist. It means that you're tokenistic. So if I hear about schools doing anti-racism, I'm going to shout it out. So I'm looking forward to beginning to shout out. Thank you very much, Hannah, for the opportunity.
Wow, okay, that's not a call to arms, people. That's 4 people giving you so many ideas about what's wrong, clarifying what we need to do, but actually tangible things to do as well. We are struggling to get the questions through. So I'm going to freestyle the questions, but if you want to put questions onto Periscope or on Twitter, Hannah, Jepson and Audrey are trying to get the questions to me in the studio. So one of the questions that is coming up is about mental health and the impact of not only COVID on people of colour and people with protected characteristics, but just, we've talked about authenticity. How can we support the mental health of people in our schools? Because there's some comments coming through that people are having to lie about what is creating their mental health conditions. Would any of you want to put your hand up and just speak to the relationship between protected characteristics and mental health? Thank you, Dan.
The very little research that exists, there is some, but the very little research that exists suggests that young LGBT people are at a significantly higher risk of self-harm. I think the statistic is that half of trans people have self-harmed, and half of those have actually succeeded in suicide. And that is frightening. And we know, as young LGBT people, having grown up into adults, we know what it's like at school to not feel accepted. And we know what it's like to constantly be picked on or bullied or victimized just because of who you are. That has a significant, huge impact on your mental health. And people go through life needing to get therapy and support after what's happened. So by enabling teachers to be visible and authentic LGBT role models, what we are doing is we are allowing those young people to feel like they identify with someone, to feel that other people are okay with people being gay, to know that other people are different and are okay with it. And it creates an enormous sense of safety and well-being that otherwise they wouldn't have. And we focus so much on curriculum in schools, but what we're trying to do is create human beings and send them out into the world as well-rounded, kind, thoughtful human beings. If they can't even feel safe and welcome in school, how can they access a curriculum?
I would say, from an ethnic minority perspective, I'd say, first of all, look at what you decide to share. So there's a lot of people who, especially within this frame of time, come to their Black colleagues and say, how do you feel about George Floyd? Now, when you think about that, you're asking that person to reflect again on that experience after seeing the video multiple times, hearing it constantly in the news. Think about how you feel about that, and then tell me so that I can then go on to explain it to someone else. So I think if you want to protect the mental health of some of your BAME colleagues, then, or your Black colleagues specifically in this matter, then you need to make sure that you're not recreating the trauma for them. You're not just rehashing the same pain again, because I'm sure that speaking even just about the autism challenge would recreate that trauma for our disabled colleagues. So we need to think about what we share and the questions we ask. Secondly, when we're thinking about mental health, it's also good for people to take moments to reflect on their own mental health and be honest about it. In the Black community, mental health still holds a stigma that it really shouldn't. And I know in other ethnic minorities, community is that if you speak out and say, actually, I don't feel well within myself at this point in time, the reaction that you get from others sort of makes you feel that you are less than a human or less than the person that you are. And that stigma really needs to be worked on and needs to be removed.
Thank you, Dan and Allana. Okay, Liz, do you want to go? And then Alison, I've got another question for you. So you go for it, Liz.
Yeah, I just wanted to very briefly say that kind of in recent, the way the disability movement is growing is that actually mental illness and mental health is starting to fall under this umbrella of disability. And I think the context of that is because I noticed that Sunray 3 actually made a comment about finding the term disability really difficult. But I just wanted to very quickly explain that actually saying that I'm a disabled person isn't placing the idea of disability on my body, but actually on society, that it is society that disables me. And from the perspective of mental health and mental illness, I think that what that is saying is that we have a social structure that isn't fit to actually deal properly with mental health issues. And so we actually have to look at these social structures and how we actually support people with mental health issues and mental illness, not just in schools, but on that wider perspective of community as well, so that we can have accessibility and inclusion for people who maybe have bipolar or depression or anxiety or whatever their mental health or mental illness actually looks like. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Liz. And ultimately, we know that mental health and wellbeing was in a crisis in the country before lockdown, and lockdown has just completely exacerbated that. And we do need to be strategic. We need to be thinking about how are we going to aid the transition of children and staff going back into our schools. And mental health needs to be upfront and foremost in our thinking about the return to schools. So I've got another question for Allana here. We've got a question from somebody who's a BAME female middle leader who's asking for some advice about how to advance to senior leadership.
Oh, right. The best way to advance in senior leadership, especially if you don't have that full experience, is to have a mentor or a coach. That is a person who will look objectively at you within your situation and will give you advice on the things that you don't see about yourself. So lots of leaders or potential leaders have this sort of blindness and they think, oh, I'm not experienced enough. And I think women, I do a lot of work on that. I'm not experienced enough. I don't know enough. What should I be doing next? Oh, I don't think I'm ready yet. And your coach is able to help you get past that level of blindness. Secondly, your coach is also able to give you a structure and give you an experience. There are lots of headship. I remember going for headship interviews and deputy headship and all of those interviews. And before you step into one, it is a mystery because there's so much secrecy around recruitment in the UK that we don't necessarily need. So I would say that your coach is able to help you through that. And lastly, have a group around you that are your support group, because there is a lot of rejection that happens in the BAME community. I was rejected tons of times before I actually got to the position where I am now. And you need to have those friends in the community who are going to help you dust you off and tell you, come on, we're going to try again. Let's do this time.
Thank you, Allana. Great feedback there. Alison, quick question here about how someone can get involved with Women Ed in Scotland. Who's the best person to contact?
There is Women Ed Scotland, but if you want to become involved with Women Ed, then start off by just looking at most of the communication is through Twitter. There's also a website which is womened.org, but then each of Women Ed is then split down into different regions, and it is changing. So we've just launched Women Ed England, and there is already a Women Ed Scotland and a Women Ed Northern Ireland and Women Ed Wales. So just come in, join us. And if you're just part of the bigger movement for now, that's fine. We've got the same messages. We want to see more women in leadership, irrespective of their culture. We want to see women leaders in our schools.
Thank you. I'm going to finish with one question that all four of you can take it in turns to answer before we go to a coffee break. Right, so just thinking about where the power in the system lies and where the decision making lies, we know that we've got an issue with male, pale and stale, boards and trusts, and also governing bodies and also SLTs. What is one message that each of you want those people to hear about what they need to do? So Allana, do you want to go first, please?
My message is be deliberately different. Pick someone that doesn't fit the mold. Pick someone whose history and background tells you that they've been a scrapper and they've fought for everything that they got, because they're the people with the resilience, they're the people who've had the experience, and they're the ones who are able to help the rest of your board drive and see change. So be deliberate in picking someone who is different.
Liz, what would you like to add?
What I would add is not to assume, kind of looking specifically at disability, there's so much assumption made about what you can and can't do. And actually disabled people are the people that know their bodies and their minds the best. So don't make assumptions about people's abilities and what they can or can't do. Actually just talk to them and discuss with them about, being able to do that job or this job, and what reasonable adjustments can actually be made to support them in being able to achieve that.
Thank you, Liz. Dan, what do you think?
Don't say that you represent your community and that you're an inclusive school if your headship team can't even do that. So if there's 4 people at the top and all of them are white straight men, then you're basically lying. So please, please be more thoughtful in your appointments, and don't be put off when someone comes to you and starts talking about the work they've done in the LGBT field or the BAME field and thinking it might challenge your status quo or your sense of privilege. Embrace those people and make us feel welcome in your schools.
Alison, final words from you, please.
Thank you. I love that, Dan. I would say to anyone at a very senior level making these decisions, check your bias. We all have them. Check your bias. And we know that we tend to appoint people who look like us, but by staying in your comfort zone, it limits you, but actually makes you a really bad leader because you're also limiting your entire community. We know there's loads and loads of research that shows the more diverse your team, the more successful you'll be. So if you want to lead a highly successful school and you want those children to be the best humans, the best global citizens, so then have a diverse team so that you together can lead the school to even greater success. If you want the success, you'll have a diverse team.
And my final comment, thank you, Allana, for bringing that to my attention. We need to pledge collectively to go and be governors. The only way we're going to change the face of school leadership is if we change the face of school governance. And if we infiltrated every governing body in the country with people of colour, with people from different sexualities, with people with disabilities, just think about how we could change the face of the education system. And moreover, we also need to consider who is doing the recruitment into the education system. We need to diversify our ITE recruitment processes, and we need to make sure that the curriculum for our PGCE students is robust and meaningful and has diversity and inclusion at its heart. We have run 4 minutes over, but what a way to start the day. All I'm going to say is I love and respect all 4 of you so much. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Lots and lots of learning, lots and lots of reflecting. It's now on the people who are watching us to go away and do the action. Thank you very, very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.